The CEO of Roblox, David Baszucki, just exposed Roblox's new update, and it could ruin Roblox's reputation overnight, so you'll want to stick around and see. But if you don't know who David Baszucki is, he's the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company that he is just making collapse. But David Baszucki was recently on an interview where he revealed some surprising things about Roblox that will absolutely blow your mind. But before we get into that, if you guys can subscribe to my channel right now to get me to 10,000 subscribers today, because we can get 10,000 subscribers today, so subscribe. But the interview that David Baszucki was on is titled An Honest Conversation with David Baszucki, the CEO of Roblox, and this interview was actually on a channel with 8,000 subscribers called Creators on the Block, and what David Baszucki says on the ever-evolving platform part of the video is crazy you will not want to miss, so look at this.
Well, let's actually start with this. So, you and the platform have come a long way, obviously. It's changed a lot. And as a little bit of a checkpoint, are you happy with where the platform is now, or do you feel like there's still more to improve?
We could ask the same question 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, and both grateful, so fulfilled, happy about the amazing community, happy about what everyone's building, but in a way, knowing how much more we could do, you could say I'm both happy and not happy at the same time.
This part of the video sounds deep, but when you actually listen to it, it's kind of empty. It's the same thing you always hear from tech people. Grateful, fulfilled, but just getting started. That sounds nice, but it doesn't really mean anything. He doesn't actually answer the question. He's asked if he's happy with where the platform is, and instead of saying what's good or what's bad, he just talks in circles. Saying you could ask this 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago is basically a way to dodge the question. The both happy and not happy at the same time line is especially weak. It sounds thoughtful, but it's safe. Every big platform says that. When you're already massive, saying you're just getting started feels less like ambition and more like ignoring the problems. What's really missing is any responsibility. If a platform has been around that long, it's made mistakes. Big ones. None of that gets mentioned. It's all gratitude, optimism, and vague future talk. That makes it feel more like PR than an honest answer.
Because I do feel we're just getting started. And I feel maybe for some of the people that have been on Roblox for a long time, they might have picked up a little bit of a vibe of where we're trying to go with this. And as people who are in the community and creators who've seen year by year by year the direction of where we're going, I'm hopeful they can extrapolate that we're both grateful and at the same time not there yet.
This part is basically more of the same, just stretched out. We're just getting started gets repeated again, like saying it twice makes it more true. But at this point, Roblox isn't some early project. It's huge. Acting like it's still in its infancy feels a little fake. Then he talks about how longtime users have picked up the vibe of where things are going. That's such a vague way to put it. What vibe? What direction? If even the creators have to extrapolate where the platform is headed, that kind of says everything. A clear vision shouldn't need decoding. The whole grateful but not there yet thing comes back again, and it still doesn't add anything. It sounds reflective, but it's just another way of not committing to anything specific. No timeline, no goals, no acknowledgement of what's actually missing. And bringing up how enormous the gaming market is doesn't really help. That's obvious. Every gaming company knows that. Saying the market is big isn't a plan, it's just an excuse to keep things vague and optimistic. Overall, it feels like he's talking around the future instead of actually talking about it. A lot of words, no clear point. It's meant to sound reassuring, but after a while, it just feels like stalling.
Like the gaming market is enormous, right? And then the market beyond that, which is how do people stay connected? Do we end up with a holodeck? Do we end up with 3D communication rather than phone and video communication? Is really going to be interesting. And I have young people in our family that no longer live close by. The ability to have a very authentic, maybe communication with them is someday very fascinating to me. So there is enormously fun and interesting things ahead for the Roblox community. We'd love to hear what they have to contribute. And we'd like to put together the ideas of the community and our crazy, wacky sci-fi vision and keep building on this.
This is where it really starts drifting. He jumps from we're not there yet straight into these huge, almost sci-fi ideas about the future of communication. 3D communication, replacing phones, replacing video calls, it all sounds big, but it's completely untethered from reality. The holodeck and 3D communication stuff feels more like buzzwords than anything concrete. There's no explanation of how Roblox actually gets there, or why it's even the right platform for that. It's just, wouldn't that be interesting over and over again? Then he brings in the personal story about young people in his family living far away. That's supposed to make it feel emotional, but it kind of comes off as a stretch. Wanting more authentic communication is relatable, sure, But Roblox is a game platform. Jumping from kids playing games to replacing real communication tools is a massive leap, and he never really justifies it. When he says there's enormously fun and interesting things ahead, that's basically the whole problem summed up. It's hype without detail. Nothing specific for creators, nothing concrete for players, just future talk and optimism. And the part about combining community ideas with their crazy, wacky sci-fi vision sounds fun, but it's also worrying. That's not a roadmap, that's vibes. If the vision is sci-fi and the plan is we'll figure it out together, it starts sounding less like leadership and more like improvising at scale. Overall, this feels less like a real answer and more like a pitch. Big ideas, emotional appeal, no clarity. It's inspiring on the surface, but the more you listen, the less grounded it feels.
Absolutely. I've been playing this game for more than half of my life, believe it or not. And it's been a big part of my life. And yeah, I've met so many amazing people because of this platform and community, and I'm eternally grateful. Now, when you first started, did you ever expect it to go to the scale it is today?
No, we've in a way, one of our values is get stuff done. One of our values is take the long view. And in a way, when we started the company, we happened to have both of those things at the same time. There's some original business plan slides we have that are somewhat audacious, because in these business plan slides, when it was four of us in an office, Shadletsky, Dusek, Eric, and myself, we were analyzing the history of communication and the history of storytelling.
This starts off nice, but it's basically just a setup for another soft, feel-good answer. The guy talking about how he's played the game for half his life and met amazing people. That's genuine, sure, but it's also doing a lot of emotional heavy lifting for the platform. It frames everything as wholesome before any real questions get answered. Then the question about scale is actually a good one. Did you expect this to get this big? And the answer is kind of a non-answer again. He says no, but then immediately pivots into company values. Get stuff done. Take the long view. That's corporate language. Those are the kind of values every tech company claims to have. It doesn't actually explain anything about how or why Roblox ended up this massive. The part about having both of those things at the same time sounds impressive, but it's vague. It's basically saying, yeah, we moved fast and thought long term. Okay, but so did 1,000 startups that failed. What actually made this different? Then he brings up the old business plan slides being audacious. That's another word that sounds cool but doesn't tell you much. Saying you were analyzing the history of communication and storytelling when it was 4 people in an office feels a little self-mythologizing. Like you weren't just making a game, you were rewriting human interaction. And that's kind of the pattern again. Everything gets framed as bigger than it actually was at the time. Not we made smart bets or we got lucky, but we were always thinking about the future of communication. It makes the success feel inevitable, which is rarely honest. So overall, it's warm, it's nostalgic, it's flattering to the platform, but it still avoids specifics. Lots of values, lots of vision, very little concrete reflection. It feels less like answering the question and more like polishing the legend of how it all started.
And we were saying, okay, gaming is really cool, right? There's like EverQuest, and things are starting to get multiplayer, and Valve Half-Life is just coming out. And so gaming's at this forefront of 3D connection. And then there's like YouTube. Oh my gosh, like UGC is coming along. And then there's, if you can believe it, many people may not even know there was this thing called Friendster and MySpace before Facebook. Like these things were coming out. And so social connection is big. And we had a business plan slide where we said in the middle of this, there could be a new category, which is, at the time we called it immersive 3D connection, kind of borrowing from gaming, 3D, borrowing from YouTube, UGC.
This is where it really turns into hindsight storytelling. He's listing off EverQuest, Half-Life, YouTube, Friendster, MySpace, all these big names, and acting like they clearly pointed to one obvious future. But that's only obvious after the fact. Saying gaming is at the forefront of 3D connection and UGC is coming along sounds smart now, but at the time, a lot of people were just throwing ideas at the wall. The way he tells it makes it feel like they saw the whole map when really they were guessing, like everyone else. The we had a business plan slide part is doing a lot of work. Every startup has slides. Every startup thinks it's creating a new category. Calling it immersive 3D connection back then doesn't automatically mean they knew what they were doing. It just means they had a buzzword early. And the way he frames it, it's like Roblox was destined to sit perfectly in the middle of gaming, YouTube, and Facebook. That's a nice story, but it skips over how messy and accidental this stuff usually is. There's no mention of wrong turns, failed ideas, or things that didn't work. It's also funny how much of this relies on name dropping. EverQuest, Valve, YouTube, Facebook. It gives the story credibility without actually explaining what Roblox did differently. It's, look at the era we were in, instead of, here's the hard decision we made. So yeah, it sounds visionary, but it's very cleaned up. This is success rewritten as foresight. It's less we took a risk and more we saw the future, which is way easier to say once you've already won.
Borrowing from Facebook, social connection. And we hypothesized about this new category when it was 4 of us and we were trying to raise a little money. We had this slide. And so that part has been very consistent.
Mhm.
But I would say along the way, it's just been many, 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 many small steps. Version
Yeah.
one, when we started, virtual worlds for young people were hot. Neopets and Club Penguin, that's what was in on the market. Today, fast forward to where we are.
This part is trying really hard to make everything sound intentional and clean. He says that Slide has been very consistent, like the core idea never really changed. But then in the next breath, he admits everything has been many, many, many small steps. Those two things kind of clash. The four of us raising a little money story is meant to make it sound scrappy and visionary, but again, it's hindsight. Plenty of startups had slides about new categories and never went anywhere. Having a slide doesn't mean you cracked the future. Then he talks about how version 1 was about virtual worlds for kids because that's what was hot. Neopets, Club Penguin, all that. That actually matters, but he kind of brushes past it. That sounds less like a grand vision and more like following the trend at the time. Fast forward and suddenly it's metaverse, world models, AI. That's another red flag. The language shifts with whatever the current buzzwords are. It makes the consistent vision claim feel shaky because the framing keeps changing to match what's popular. So which is it? A vision that's been consistent from day one, or a product that keeps adapting to trends? Because it sounds like the second one, even if he wants to dress it up as the first. Overall, this feels like success being smoothed out into a neat story. Lots of, we always knew where we were going, very little, we changed because the market forced us to. It's not dishonest, but it's definitely curated.
And we're talking the metaverse and world models and AI and all of that. So the where we are has shifted, but the vision's been somewhat consistent.
Yeah. I mean, that does bring up an interesting point, right? It is noticeable where Roblox is heading. And I'm kind of curious. I want to hear your take. There has been a noticeable concern from their community because we've seen that the old Roblox kind of had this undeniable charm and kind of freedom and fun to it. But recently we've had friends turn into connections, games turn into experiences, badges were just removed from players, which is understandable. They weren't doing anything, but some argue that it could have been changed into something else. So we're just wondering, why is it moving towards this more quote unquote professional or corporate slate rather than how Roblox used to be? What's your take on that?
This is actually one of the better questions in the whole interview, and you can feel the shift immediately. For once, someone is clearly pointing at what people are actually upset about. The charm thing is real. Old Roblox felt messy, goofy, unpolished, and that was the appeal. It felt like a playground. Now everything's being renamed and cleaned up. Friends become connections, games become experiences. That's not neutral. That's corporate language replacing player language. The badge example is small, but it matters. Saying they weren't doing anything misses the point. A lot of things in games don't do anything except exist and feel rewarding. Removing them instead of reworking them sends the message that emotional value doesn't matter unless it fits some larger system. And the bigger issue is direction. When users notice a platform becoming more professional, what they're really saying is it feels less like it's for them and more like it's for investors, brands, or future partners. The fun chaos gets traded for clean slides and safe terminology. What's interesting is that the question isn't even hostile, it's respectful. It's basically asking, why does Roblox feel less like a game and more like a product now? And that's a fair question, especially for people who grew up on it. This moment kind of exposes the tension in everything he's said before. You can't keep talking about community, charm, and creativity while also sanding down everything that made the platform feel weird and personal. At some point, those goals clash. So yeah, this is the first time the interview actually puts pressure on the vision, and it highlights the real fear people have, that Roblox isn't evolving with its community, it's evolving past it.
That's a really good one because there was, going back historically, I was just talking to Stickmaster Luke yesterday. He's been on the platform forever. And we were talking about when it was early on, the four of us in that office, we would go on Roblox every day for hours. And at times there were only 100 people on. And, Stealth Pilot was there and B Spurl was there and all of these people that were on in the very first year.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said is really true. That was a wide open frontier. People were making friends, connecting.
This answer starts by sounding promising, but then it immediately slips into nostalgia mode. He says it's a really good question, which is fair, but instead of answering it directly, he starts reminiscing. Name-dropping Stickmaster Luke and early users feels more like credibility padding than an actual response. It's basically saying, I've talked to old school people, so I get it, without actually engaging with the criticism being raised. The story about only 100 people being online and everyone knowing each other, yeah, that was real, but that's also kind of the problem. That kind of tight, frontier-style community doesn't scale. Bringing it up doesn't explain why today's Roblox has to feel more corporate, it just reminds people people of what they lost. Calling it a wide open frontier actually undercuts the rest of the vision talk. Frontiers are messy, chaotic, and player driven. Modern Roblox is way more controlled, more structured, more sanitized, so pointing out how wild it used to be almost makes the current direction look worse by comparison. And again, it's all vibes. Passionate community, making friends, early days magic. None of that explains the design decisions people are upset about. No mention of why friends became connections, why games became experiences, or why charm keeps getting replaced with branding language. Even the Roblox studio mention feels like another nostalgia beat. Remember how exciting that was? Instead of a justification for where things are heading now. So once again, the pattern holds. The question is about change and loss. The answer is about memory and sentiment. It's warm, but it's not an answer. It feels like he's saying, I remember the old Roblox too, instead of explaining why the new Roblox has to be this way. But if you like this video, watch this video right here. What are you doing? Watch this video right here.